expectations. Okay, let's just in case you haven't just really thought about it, I want you to set your expectations for 2022. Okay, so I want you to set your expectations related to the economy. The stock market is doing some really crazy stuff right now, and I think it dropped 1,000 points last week in one day, which was the largest drop that it had this earlier in the year, I believe, in history. And so here's what Jesus said about the economy. Again, this is so comforting that Jesus told us these things, as it was in the days of Noah. So it will be also in the days of the Son of Man. They ate, they drank, they married wives, they were given in marriage, until the day that Noah entered the ark and the flood came and destroyed them all. Likewise, also as it was in the days of Lot. They ate, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they built. But on the day that Lot went out of Sodom and Gomorrah, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven to destroy them all. Even so will it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. Now, this can't be at the end of the tribulation, okay? Because the earth is a smoldering ruin. 3/4 of the earth's population is dead. No one's buying, no one's selling, no one's marrying, no one's planning a building. It's the end of the world. And so this is a time when Jesus is revealed to the church. This is a period of time when the rapture happens and it's business as usual. There is an economy. So will there be ups and downs in the economy? Yes, but I'm just saying, all the financial doomsdayers and stuff out there, don't listen to them. Jesus Christ told you there's going to be buying and selling. There's going to be an economy. There's going to be planning and building and marrying, giving in marriage. And so those things relate to hope. There's hope for the future. Jesus is talking about, in my Father's house are many mansions. To the Western mind, that's just, well, what are you talking about? But to the Jewish mind, they knew exactly what he was talking about. The disciples knew exactly. He's explaining a wedding. And so Jesus said, in my Father's house are many mansions. I go to prepare a place for you. See, in a Jewish wedding, the groom left his father's house with a bride price. And he came to the bride's house and he paid the price for the bride to her parents. And he sat down with a glass of wine with the bride and her parents. They had a glass of wine. This is when they were legally betrothed. They didn't consummate it for about a year, but they were legally betrothed at that point. And the groom would say to the bride, I won't drink of this glass again, this cup again, until I drink it with you in my Father's house. That's what Jesus said to the disciples at the Last Supper. Then the groom went back to his father's house and built a huppah, a place for his bride. And his father had to inspect it. It was typically about a year later. And his father would say, the groom would say, Father, is it time? And the father would say, it's not time. Father, is it time? It's not time. Then he would finally say, Father, is it time? The father would say, it's time. Go get your bride. So the groom and his party would come down the street, typically around midnight, blowing trumpets and yelling, the voice of an archangel, the trumpet of God. This is what 1 Thessalonians 4 says. And they would come down the street. The bride wore her wedding gown to bed. The attendants of the bride wore their wedding clothes to bed. She had to be ready immediately. Okay, this is what Jesus said, watch therefore. You don't know what hour he's coming. So she had to be ready. So when he came down the street yelling and everything, she had to get up and get herself ready in just a matter of minutes. And then he took her back to the Father's house. Okay, now by the way, the bride's price that Jesus paid for us was his life. And he told the disciples, I'm going to my Father's house to prepare a place for you. And I'm going to go and I'm going to return. This is the promise of Jesus, that he's going to return. And he said, I'm going to return and I'm going to take you to myself. I'm going to receive you to myself. That's a very important word. That where I am, you may be also. Listen, Jesus said, 2 men taken. In that day, there will be 2 men standing in a field, one taken, one left. Then John 14 says, I'm going to receive you to myself. That's the word paralambano. In both cases, the word taken is the word paralambano. The word receive in John 14 is paralambano. This is receiving us unto himself to be married to him for all of eternity. And I'm saying to you that is the bride. We are the bride of Jesus Christ. That's who you really are. You're not a plumber. You're not a stay-at-home mom. You're not a truck driver. You're not a student. That's not who you really are. That's just a temporary identity you have in this earth. You are really and truly the bride of Jesus Christ. That's who you really are. And the rapture and all of the end times, you really can't understand it unless you understand who you really are. You can't understand it until you understand the program. Here's the program. Jesus came from his Father's house to the earth. He gave his life to save us because God so loved the world. God so loved you that he gave his only begotten Son. Okay? And so Jesus died for his bride. The bride price was his life. And to show you how precious you are, see, you may not feel that special. You may not feel that important. You may feel like something that you've done has disqualified you from God's love. That's why God loves us based on grace and not the things that we've done. I'm telling you right now that God is madly in love with you. He's madly in love with you enough to give the life of his Son. And he's madly in love with you enough to live with you forever and to make you his wife. Okay? In Revelation 19, it talks about the marriage supper of the Lamb has come and his wife has made herself ready. Today we're his bride. But when Jesus comes and we go to the marriage supper of the Lamb, we become his wife. No more sorrow, no more tears, no more death, no more weakness, no more frailty, no more devil. We have authority. We have perfect bodies. We're at home with Jesus. We have a mansion in the Father's house. Can you imagine the average Jewish groom would spend about a year building the place for his bride? Jesus has been there for 2,000 years. Can you imagine how exquisite the house that we will have in heaven will be? And I'm just saying to you, we have a lot to look forward to. Set your expectations on God.